you can kind of get out of your own way, get the help that you need, and focus on the folks out there who stand to gain so much from your work and what you have to offer. You can't fail.
Well, hey there, artpreneur. This is Miriam Schulman, your curator of inspiration. Welcome to the Inspiration Place. Today, we have a special guest joining us who is not only a talented artist, but also a remarkable teacher who has built an incredible online class focused on the art of upcycling books. We'll be exploring her journey, how she got started teaching this unique art form to discovering her voice as an artist. Before we get there, by tuning in, I also want to give you a chance to grab our exclusive free tech guide, discover the 9 tools recommended by top artists to create stunning art videos. These tools will not only help you captivate your audience, but also attract collectors, followers, and art students. To get your hands on it, just go to schulmanart.com/tech. Tech as in TECH. Now on with the show. Please welcome to the Inspiration Place, Bel Mills. Well, hey there, Bel. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Miriam. I'm so glad to be here. This is a dream come true, truly.
Well, it's always fun to have one of my students on the show and somebody whose journey I've been following for a while, but I don't know your backstory. How did you get started doing this? Did you always want to be an artist?
No, I would say I was always creative, but both my mother and my sister were kind of better artists than I was because they knew how to draw. I didn't know how to draw. So I thought, well, I can't be an artist. So really, it was something that I came to after my children were born. I was actually working as a newspaper journalist when they were born. And then I decided to stay home as a full-time parent. By the time they had started elementary school, I was thinking about getting back, working outside the home. I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to go back to the newspaper world. So I decided to take classes at our local university. And I had always, loved art. I loved books. At that time, I was actually thinking about writing a children's book. So I thought, well, I'll take a book arts class and I can learn, I'll write the book and then I can kind of design the book myself. So that's sort of why I went into it. But by the time I finished the class, I had really just fallen in love with book arts in general and decided that I wanted to continue with that.
All right. Can you tell us what is book arts?
Yes. So book arts is really just the art of making handmade books. It can either be blank books, like blank journals, or you can also make artist books, which are really just art forms in the form of a book where every page is going to have some sort of original artwork on it. A lot of book artists do printmaking and letterpress. That's a very popular way to do it, but there are others who do watercolors or collage. There's just really all sorts of different ways to do book art. And I do both of those. I teach people how to make blank books and then also collaged artist books.
Okay, so I'm really curious. So I know you sold over 200 of these on Etsy. Who were buying them and what was the reason they're buying them? Because it sounds like such a personal thing to make these art books that you have to flip through. So tell me a little bit more about the collectors behind these types of artworks.
Sure. A lot of them were journalers, the ones who would buy sort of the blank books. The artist books, I don't always sort of get a very good sense of who the customers were on Etsy. Often in a review, somebody would say to me, for example, I remember I sold an artist book that had kind of an ocean theme. And she said, oh, this is going to be the perfect thing to put on the mantle at our beach house, or that sort of thing. It would definitely be something that, an artist book that would either be on a mantle or sort of like a coffee table book, something that people would just kind of want to pick up and page through in a relaxed moment.
Here's a question about upcycling. So we've kind of danced around what this is. There's these handmade journals, but I still don't think we got into the heart of it. So explain a little bit more about it.
Absolutely. So upcycling, I think the best way for people to understand it is to kind of contrast it with recycling, which most people are familiar with. If we imagine recycling paper, we would take a piece of paper that normally would be disposed and we would send it to a processing plant, and it gets made into pulp and made into a new paper item that is also disposable. It never kind of gets removed from the waste stream. The idea with upcycling is that you're taking something that would normally be thrown away and you're kind of upgrading it. You're making it into something that's permanent and beautiful. And in this case, we're taking cardboard boxes or envelopes or file folders and we're turning them into books. And hopefully there's something that people would fill with their thoughts. It would be something that they would hold on to, or, more of an art piece that also wouldn't be something that people would tend to throw away. Nice. So that's sort of the idea. You're sort of taking something that people don't normally look at as beautiful or something worth saving, and you're turning it into sort of a precious, beautiful object.
Okay, so I know this is getting into a little bit of your class, but if I were signing up for your class, and where do I start? Where do I get this book that I'm going to upcycle? What do you tell your students to do?
Oh, well, in the class, we're not necessarily, you can upcycle books. So that is one way to do upcycling. Like I could get a vintage book and I can remove the pages and I can repurpose the cover and make that into a new book. But then the other way of making upcycled books is that you take paper that's not books and you make it into books. So for example, in this introductory class that I just created, we're going to be taking file folders. So here's what I'm holding up to the camera, just an example. We're going to be taking file folders. So this is something that people would not necessarily think of as beautiful or, something that would be a keepsake or worth really holding on to. And then also souvenir postcards. I'm somebody, whenever I go to an art exhibit, I'm always coming home with postcards of, my favorite paintings that I saw. So we're taking these objects, sort of ordinary paper objects, and we're turning them into books. So here are some examples of some notebooks that I made. So in the class, we make 4 different notebooks, and the students learn 4 different decorative stitches for the notebooks. This is like a really great sort of giftable item. So for example, if you have a friend who loves cats or they love bicycles, it's a really great way to sort of give them a very custom, thoughtful, personalized gift. It's a neat gift idea, and also just a great way to use postcards that you may have collected over time and that really are just sitting in a drawer.
That's great. Okay, so if you're listening and you want to learn how to do this, actually, we do have a link for you. So we've included that in the show notes. It's schulmanart.com/binding. You'll be learning how to bind your own book and do all the techniques Bel teaches. So Bel, this is one of your first online art classes. What was the biggest challenge about doing this?
For me, the hardest thing was really sort of getting over my own hangups about selling classes. When I first started teaching, I was teaching in-person classes at that time, and I think I had kind of some beginner's luck. The first few classes I taught filled up. But then I kind of hit this dip where I was having a really hard time. I would have maybe 2 students sign up for a class, and a lot of the places I was teaching for at that time had a 5-person minimum. So we would have to basically just cancel the class after I'd put all this prep work into it. So that was sort of like this difficult, kind of just a past experience that I had to get over, that I really had to set aside and stop worrying so much about, how is this going to go? Who is going to sign up? And what if nobody signed up? And how is that going to make me feel? And really had to remind myself, and this is something that really listening to your podcasts and reading your books and being in the artist incubator has really helped me with, is just remembering that it's not about me. I really need to put the focus on the student and what I know that they stand to gain from the class, and just being excited about conveying that information. This is going to be the class that they've been waiting for. And maybe not everybody, but there will be some people. And so I write the sales page for them. And that helps me bring a lot of positivity and a lot of good energy. So that has been really, I'd say, the biggest help for me, is taking myself out of the equation and focusing on the students and what I know they're going to get out of the class. Another thing that I kind of had to get over was this idea that I could do it all myself, because for a long time I was just kind of trying to do everything myself. And, getting coaching has just been such a great step for me. I think a lot of people, we live in like a very individualistic kind of culture, and we grow up hearing about self-reliance, and we all want to kind of climb to the top of the mountain ourselves. But really, there's nothing to be gained from going it alone. And again, focusing on the customer or the student, you can really get the work to them a lot quicker and a lot higher quality if you're working with a coach. That's just been a huge breakthrough for me, is just being able to join the artist incubator. I've also been working with another coach, Callan Brecken, who's helped me with a ton of the tech that was so confusing for me. So that really just kind of getting over myself and saying, okay, it's not about me. It's not about me being this great artist who did it all myself. It's all about the students, and it's all about me getting whatever help that I need to give them what I know they're going to love.
That's great. And I understand you were very successful with your first course launch. How many people did you have in there?
I had 130 people sign up for the class.
Amazing.
Thank you.
130 humans wanted to learn this process from you. And because you got over yourself and did the brave thing and offered it to them, they were able to take this class. How does that make you feel?
It really makes me feel great. When I think back about the days where I had 2 people signing up for my classes and how I was just really stuck in this psychological loop of failure, or what does this mean? And I'm not good at this or whatever. And being able to set that aside and really come to my students with an energy of, you're going to love this. This is so great. And being able to get that response, it's just been a huge lesson for me in terms of that sort of philosophy of, getting out of your own way and not getting so caught up in all of the limiting beliefs and all the things that sort of hold you back when you're thinking about your journey as an artist, instead of thinking about your customers and, what they stand to gain if you can extend yourself to them in a spirit of generosity.
That's so beautiful. Okay, so I just want to remind everybody that if you want to be one of the next students, is this available on demand, or you do this in cohorts, this class?
It is available on demand.
Okay. So if you want to check out this class, I think my daughter and I are going to do it. My daughter is 25. So I know that she loves doing this sort of thing. So we're definitely going to check this out too. So go to schulmanart.com/binding. That's how you can get Bel's class and make your own books and learn this technique. And if you want to make your own art videos, but you don't know what technology you need, again, I have that free list for you. It's schulmanart.com/tech, tech as in TECH. All right, Bel, do you have any last words before we call this episode complete?
I do. Really, my last words are just to remember that it isn't about you. And if you can kind of get out of your own way, get the help that you need, and focus on the folks out there who stand to gain so much from your work and what you have to offer, you can't fail.
Fantastic. Okay, my friend. So I will see you the same time, same place next week. Until then, stay